Okay, the lesson you'll be studying today is adding and subtracting integers. We'll start out with something that you're very familiar with. We'll start out with 3 plus 3, which is a typical problem in arithmetic that you are used to doing. And you know that the answer is 6. But the way that you've gotten the answer the whole time, and without even knowing that you've been doing this, is that you've known that this was a positive 3. And this is a positive 3 right here also. Well, both these threes have a positive and a positive. So they have the same sign. And the rule in adding integers is that if they have the same sign, you get the sum of the numbers. Okay? So the sum of 3 and 3 is 6. And then to know the sign of the answer, the rule is if it's the same sign, you keep the sign. Okay? So that means that this is a positive 3 and a positive 3. They have the same signs, so you add them together. So 3 plus 3 is 6, and you keep the sign, and the sign is positive, so our answer is positive 6. Now let's go over to the other problem. This is a negative 3 and a negative 3. And it's real important that you get to the point in this stage of learning pre-algebra that you don't look at this as minus 3 minus 3. Okay? This is negative 3 and negative 3. They're just sitting beside each other. And what you have to do is look at them and go with this same rule down here. Same sign, sum. This is a negative. This is a negative. So they have the same sign. So you get the sum of the two numbers. The sum of the two numbers is 6. And then what's it say down here at the bottom? It says keep the sign. So the sign is negative. The sign is negative. We keep the sign. So that means our answer is negative 6. Now, let's look at this one. And once again, I do not want you to look at this as 4 minus 3. This is a 4, a positive 4, and a negative 3. And what was our rule earlier? The rule earlier was same signs, sum, keep the sign. Well, this time, because we've got a positive 4 and a negative 3, what we have is a positive and a negative, which means we have different signs. And when you have different signs, you get the difference between the two numbers. Okay? And the difference between two numbers is when you subtract. So we're going to subtract 4 and 3, and we get, you know this, 1. And now how do we know the sign of the answer? The sign of the answer is determined. You have different signs, difference, and we keep the sign of the larger number. Okay? There we go, keep. Okay, which number is larger? Is the 4 larger or is the 3 larger? Forget about the signs because we're doing absolute value. Remember, absolute value is the value of a number without the sign. So the absolute value of 4 is 4 and the absolute value of negative 3 is just 3. So which one of those is bigger? Correct, the 4 is bigger. And what is the sign of the 4? The sign of the 4 is a positive, so the answer is going to be positive. So we have a positive 1. Now look over here at the other problem. This is a negative 4 and a positive 3. So once again, we have different signs, which means we're going to get the difference between the two numbers. And we have the same two numbers, so the difference between 4 and 3, once again, is going to be 1. And the same rule applies, keep the sign of the larger number. And the larger number still is 4, because we're doing the absolute value. And remember, absolute value is just the value of the number without the sign. So the value of negative 4 is just 4, and the value of 3 is 3. So 4 is bigger, and we keep the sign that's with the 4, and the sign that's with the 4 is negative, so our answer is negative 1. Now, sometimes you're going to have to simplify. Remember, simplification is, and you should always simplify whenever you're working with in algebra. If you've got 2/4, you want to simplify it to 1/2. Okay? That's simplifying. And whenever you see the opportunity to simplify something, you always do it. Okay, now, if we've got a plus and a minus, do you know what that simplifies to? A plus and a minus simplify to a minus. A plus and a plus simplify to a plus. A minus and a minus, do you know what that simplifies to? A plus. And then finally, a minus and a plus simplify to a minus. Now, can you see a pattern here? Look at this. We had a minus and a plus that became a minus, a plus and a minus that became a minus. How many negative signs did you see in those two instances? Yes, there's one here, and you ended up with a negative. There's one here, and you ended up with a negative. In the other circumstances, you had a plus and a plus, and a minus and a minus. When they had the same signs, they ended up being positive. So that's the rule to remember, okay? If you have mixed signs like this, when you're dealing with two signs, if you have mixed signs, you're going to have a minus. If you have the same signs, you're going to have a plus. So now let's try some examples. Remember right here it says that a minus and a minus simplify to a plus. A minus and a minus simplify to a plus. On our previous one, and we've got a minus and a plus, and remember that comes out to be a minus. You have 6 minus a minus 3. But I've told you I don't want you to look at this as a subtraction or addition problem. I just want you to look at this as just regular numbers, as regular integers. So the first thing that we have to do is simplify. Because you've got a minus and a minus in order like that, one right after the other, what you have to do is simplify. So what did we say that a minus and a minus simplify to? So we've got 6 and a minus minus 3. So that means we're going to have 6 plus 3. That's the simplified version of the original problem. And you know already how to do the answer to this one. You know the answer is 9. But the reason the answer is 9 is because, and the reason it's positive 9 is because you have, in this problem, you have the same signs. So you get the sum of the two numbers, and the sum of 6 and 3 are 9. And you keep the sign. And the sign is a positive, so you have a positive 9. All right, let's look at the other problem. We've got 6 plus a negative 3, and we want to simplify this positive and negative. And we look back on. So when you have a mixed pair like this, what you do is simplify it like 6 minus 3. And we have a 6 and a positive 6 and a negative 3. They have different signs, so you get the difference between the two numbers. And the difference between 6 and 3 is 3. And we keep the sign of the larger number. And which number is larger, 6 or 3? Correct. 6 is larger, and it's positive, so our answer is going to be positive 3. Okay, now let's look at this one. We've got negative 16 plus a minus 18. And we're going to simplify these two signs, okay? We're going to simplify the plus and the minus. And what did we learn about this earlier? When you have a pair of signs together like this, when they are a mixed pair, it's going to simplify to be a minus. So let's rewrite this as negative 16 plus and a minus becomes a minus 18. Okay, what was our rule? Our rule is if you have the same sign, what do? Same sign sum. Isn't that great how all of them start the same way with the same letter? Same sign sum. So that means that we're going to add 16 and 18 together. That gives us 34. And we keep the sign. And the sign is a minus. So we keep the sign, so our answer is a minus 34.